Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1482 of our daily content grind. So it is time for another monthly Q&A. I missed it yesterday because frankly, I was still recovering from some burnout and I really didn't have a, potentially 3-hour recording in me at the time. So we delayed it for a day. Apologies for that, but here we are. We're going to discuss every single question you guys had for me in the month of September. So if you are new here, all of you should know the rules by now, but just in case, they are on screen. Please only ask one question per person. If I notice any kind of duplicate accounts posting more than one question, I'm just going to start deleting your questions. Please keep it short. We need punchy questions and answers. Do not ask me to come up with entire rosters or stories on the spot. Do not ask me to conceive entire recastings or anything like that. If it's going to make everything grind to a halt and I have to comb through 40 years of Transformer knowledge to come up with a very specific list, I'm not going to answer because it just takes too long and these videos are too long as it is. Keep it TOS friendly, very obvious. Please do not ask about Gun Megatron, Gundam, or any topics that I've either gone at lengths about over and over again and have whole videos getting my thoughts out, or things that you know from previous Q&As I had no answers, because that happens a lot. I know people who are in these Q&As every single month, and I keep getting questions that I just don't have an answer for you. I apologize, and I'm sure it will happen today, but we will find out. So first one up, Transformer character that you believe always gets good toys. Money's on Cyclonus. So Cyclonus has the advantage of barely getting any toys to begin with compared to a lot of other characters. His G1 toy is okay. It's kind of funky looking, but it works good. Universe was good. His Kingdom figure, I think, is one of the best we've ever had. That said, not a fan of his Combiner War figure. It's a retool of Silverbolt, and it wasn't really a great one. Also, I never understood the Galvatron head for the Combiner. That always struck as just kind of dumb to me. I know they explained it in Japan, but it's still dumb. Honestly, if I'm looking at characters who always get good toys, I don't think it's fair to go to a character who rarely gets a toy. Like a Cybertron Hotshot, I think has had 3 good toys so far. His original, his modern mold, and I would even count the Legends class figure because for the era, for the realm that Legends were in at the time, I thought that toy was actually pretty good. It even got to keep its gimmick that the other ones didn't get to do. Honestly, the one I would come to is Starscream. Even above anyone else in the Big Four, they make sure Starscream's toys are actually really, really good. Most every time. I am sure. You could argue things like the Robot Master Starscream, but even then, that toy is just okay. As far as bad toys, it's hard to name a Starscream off the top of my head without going to something ridiculous like Build a Rule or the movie line, which I think is unfair. But generally, G1 Starscream gets really banger toys. See, Death Battle typically tries to prioritize characters with some sort of thematic connection between them. So if Bumblebee were to appear on Death Battle, what sort of theme would you want his opponent to match? I feel like that is your quintessential Transformers versus GoBots. If you wanted to do Scooter from GoBots, you could get away with that for Death Battle. If we want to go outside of that, he's a low-powered scout character. I'm not sure who in fiction would fit that role and be somewhat of an even match, because robot-wise, he's also kind of on the small side. So where is the balance there? Where is the balance on that one? Not to mention Bumblebee, the thing is Bumblebee is he's such a low powered character. I feel like his counterpart would have to be some character who was also some kind of scout, and the battle would mostly just be about sneaking around. Like it's almost like a Solid Snake level, but I think Solid Snake would also waste Bumblebee just on pure arsenal. That's a really hard one. I don't have a good answer for that one, unfortunately. Because that, but if you ask me what theme I'd want him to match, it would probably be just like a scout base, because that's where Bumblebee's strengths lie. It makes for a boring death battle, but that's what he's got. Let's see, how would you feel about future Transformers media that used Overlord like this? A man-made tank and jet with human pilots to convert into robots. Over and Lord, I'm already no. I don't like when you're taking like existing Transformer characters and go, well, they're human built and human pilots. No. A twist reveal later in Series 2 combined into a larger Overlord, which later gained sentience to toy individual deluxes, but combined to Overlord can how power the past. See, you lost me at the human pilots and man-made. Like, immediately, like, if there's one thing in Transformers fiction that I kind of hold to is, I don't think humans should be able to create something Cybertronian or Cybertronian equivalent, because that takes away the strength of the Transformers. Like, what's the point of the Autobots being the defenders of the planet against the Decepticons if you are able to create like an entire army of robots that can stand up to a Decepticon? So I never, like, right off of the bat, I never like stories like that. Like, that's just not my thing. Now, individual toys that like would combine into him and still function the way Overlord's supposed to, you can come up with a reimagining to make that cool, but it doesn't need to be human made. With Hasbro more frequently releasing odd character choices recently, what wildcard Transformer characters would you want to see get new generation toys in the future? I'd like to see animated Constructicons, Prime Hard Shell, a 2015 Thunderhoof, Cyberverse, Rack and Ruin. So Rack and Ruin, even G1, I think, like, I love the idea of Rack and Ruin as such a unique Transformer character. So that would work for me. As far as just like oddball choices, we're getting oddballs because they want to finish off like doing every G1 character, giving like basically updating the entirety of the 80s roster. And we're getting to oddball characters because frankly, that's all that's left. They've covered pretty much everybody else. As far as just like oddballs, I'd like to see get like full figures. Mine always default to G2 stuff like Rapido, like the super bright toys from back then. I'm trying to think of ones that like, this would be super weird, but I'd be way into it. And that gets into things like Firecons would be hysterical, just like Beast Wars retool things. But like, I do like Prime Hardshell. I like Thunderhoof. My answer would have been Filch, but they made a toy for Filch. It's not exactly what I was expecting for her, but hey, it's there. It exists. There's so many. There's so many just like random offbeat characters that I would love to see get some kind of modern recognition. We're getting like a lot of like chop shops, weirdly enough. See, I had a major epiphany in recent years. Are the G186 characters with futuristic Altmo Cybertronian or present day 2005 Earth Altmos that were theorized might exist by then? It's actually a fair question, because one thing about the Cybertronian modes from G1 is that they hovered. Bumblebee was a little UFO. Jazz, Wheeljack, they hovered. All of the other Cybertronians are wheeled. Now, it's possible they adapted wheels so they would work on Earth and on Cybertron, but you might actually be onto something that actually might be related to like what Earth cars were supposed to be at the time. Because this was 1985. They were doing the writing and designing for this movie. So, yeah, like that's feasible. They could have just imagined what, cars would have looked like, 20 years from now. Because that's the era of like crazy, weird, like futuristic cars, Possibly. I've had that thought in my head before, and I've never really come up with a satisfying answer to it. But like, it could really be either one. Um, I think the only exception to that might be Cup. I'm trying to remember because I know there was episodes that explored Cup's past, but I can't remember if we saw him in vehicle mode or not. What Optimus Prime character flaw would you like to see explored more depth in the future? Is reluctancy, refusal to admit he enjoys, thrives in combat. I think Optimus is supposed to be a much braver and grander hero than that, so I don't think he does. And I don't like when that is an aspect. Like Armada did that, and I didn't like that aspect in Armada. Him coping with the fact that he's not truly worthy of the Matrix, or him having a hard time connecting with his subordinates. So, of all of those, it would definitely be the middle one. Just like not feeling truly worthy of the Matrix. But there's also something about that adds depth to the character because it keeps him humble. Like, okay, you've led this war for millions of years and the Autobots still have not fallen, but you still do not view yourself as like truly deserving of the Matrix of leadership. That's humbling, and that makes him a little bit more like down to earth, which is good. Having a hard time connecting to his subordinates, that was always a strength of Optimus Prime. Like it's again not a story element that I like when they introduce, because you look at the source materials, and outside of a few rebellious characters who are designed to be rebellious like Grimlock, he's actually really good at getting along with all of his troops and being as much a friend as a commander. And again, I think that's a source of strength. The premise of Prime's inspiration is, be strong enough to be gentle. So when he's having a hard time connecting with his subordinates, he's not really being general. He's not being gentle. He should be able to be more on their level. Or something I'm not thinking of. I don't know, like, I thought IDW had something with like exploring like a potential Messiah complex, when he discovers like he's the 13, or people start believing he's the 13th. There's something to that. I'm not sure IDW 1.0 handled it in the best way, but there's it definitely added something to Prime and like a level and depth to him that I didn't think we really explored well enough. Like, if there is a route to Optimus Prime becoming like evil the same way IDW Megatron became good, it's getting too wrapped up in the idea that he is, the 13th lost Prime, or like the favorite of the Primes, something of that nature. What sort of dramatic or dynamic could an animated style Ratchet and Armada style Red Alert have? I don't necessarily mean those exact depictions, just for a hypothetical new series where they both appear and have personalities based on these versions. So your animated style Ratchet is just that old, worn out war medic that's seen everything 10 times over and is just sick of seeing it. He's just worn to the bone, but he's still in the fight because he doesn't, but for like Armada Red Alert is a more stern character than even Ratchet. He's not like gruff, and he's not like war torn or anything. He's got a little bit more of a jovial aspect to him. I almost see just I feel like animated Ratchet in a cohabited universe would probably be just like the retired mentor to Red Alert, who's starting in his role as the chief medic, but is not quite confident in it yet. I feel like that's your dynamic. I feel like that is where those two live together. Off the top of your head, what's the coolest Transformer name that has never been used more than once or at all? What's the coolest Transformer name that has never been used? There have been cool names. I remember as a kid, I thought Daytona sounded really cool until I realized they just named him after a race. That didn't come for a few years, but I thought Daytona sounded really cool. I'm trying to think of like one-off characters that I really liked, and the name was really cool. It's hard to come up with like it's hard to come up with like really, really spot on, like cool sounding names that I only got to hear once. It's actually difficult. See, this is one of those like, uh, think about 40 years of this franchise really quick and give me an answer. There's so many ones. Like I think one that doesn't get used a lot that could have been really cool is Skyhammer, because that is a G1 Pretender, and then they brought it back for Dark of the Moon. But that's a really cool name. I love the name Skyhammer. You know, if you want, you know, like we had a Hammer Bite in Cyberverse, and I thought that was a perfect use. That would have been great for Skyhammer, just to be like, make him a complete alternative to Skybite. But just the name Skyhammer has some really cool like visuals you could play with as far as his capabilities go. When you watch anime, are you a sub or dub type of person? So I'm not technically a snob about subs or dubs. Sometimes it really does depend. Usually I like a dub. That way I don't have to pay full attention. If I'm reading through subtitles, I'm missing a lot of the animation I came to see. And I'm not taking in character detail the way I would if I'm watching a dub. So generally, just so I can pay more attention, or sometimes so I can pay less attention, I prefer a dub. You know, if I have one monitor on a video edit or something I'm writing and the other monitor on an anime, then I prefer a dub so I can just take it in while doing something else. That's one reason why I kind of fell off of Kamen Rider for a bit, because I just didn't have the time to sit down and like focus, read through something. You know, so, but I'm usually not picky. You know, like I've watched Slayers dubbed and subbed and enjoy it both ways. Now, there are situations where I think the dub did fail the source material. I'm looking at Gal Gaigar. We mentioned Dan Green last time. Like, Dan Green only really has like one voice that I know him for, like that Yami Yugi voice that I just hear everywhere. But no, he, you know, like hearing him, that kind of ruined it. Like, and I just feel like there's so much energy in the original like voiceover in Gal Gaigar. They're like, the dub just does not come close. Okay. Okay, sorry if this breaks roster rules. What if full combiners could also have an alternate mode? Like Devastator turning into a Bagger 288, Menasor as a War Rig, or Dino King having a quadrupedal stance. So, you do realize you are asking literally the impossible, because a combiner has so much engineering going into just making it look like a robot as it is. You would never be able to get this to work. Now, Dino King or Predaking, one of those might have some chance of being a quadruped because that's easier to do. But generally, I think that just, again, I think it takes away from it. You know, like in the same way that like Mixmaster's alt mode is a cement truck, the Constructicons alt mode is Devastator. You know, when I'm talking about the group, the giant robot they combine into is the alt mode, right? So in that sense, like, I feel like they already are what they need to be. And to try to make a combiner like a standard transformer and like give them an alt mode too, I think diminishes what they are. I think it's better when they have that, like, you know, someone else going for them. Now, if you want to do like their vehicle modes combine into something, and we do something akin to like a Time Force Megazord out of the whole situation, that's a different story. So, you know, someone mentioned, you know, Mecha Below mentions like if the Technobots, like, it wouldn't work because we only have one aerial, but like if you could just like, if you could somehow just like transform all five of them together into like some giant rolling tank and take advantage of like Scattershot's cannon mode to do that, you might have something there. Like that would be kind of cool. but like as a robot transforming into something after combining, I think that's not. I know, I'm not a big fan of that one as much. I've been designing Cybertronian alt modes for my stories. I'm curious what your ideal style of Cybertronian alt modes are. More like a cyberpunk style, or like the first G1 episode, or more of a Star Wars feeling, like the Bayverse, Bubble Movie, High Moon games. I generally do kind of prefer what they did in G1. I like the idea that they are simple, smooth, utilitarian, because that's all they need to be. You know, you're not disguising yourself on Cybertron because, you know, you're not turning into anything that someone's going to pilot, right? You know, you're turning into an alt mode that's convenient for your capabilities. So you don't really need to hide yourself as anything. You just transform into what works best for you. And I do think things like rubber tires are not going to exist on Cybertron. So I prefer generally when they are hover vehicles. Just seems to make more sense to me. But again, it does really it does really just kind of depend on the aesthetic to go for, because I do really like the designs the High Moon games came up with. Digimon has a fantastic year, and the best is still to come with the new game and anime. What is another favorite evolution line of yours aside from Patamon's? So, you gotta remember, a lot of what I know in Digimon is pretty old at this point. I have not followed the franchise in a long, long time. I just hold on to my favorites like Patamon, Gatomon, but I wouldn't call Gatomon one of my favorite evolution lines. Not only because her rookie form is like a puppy and she turns into a cat, which is weird, but also because I say that a cat turns into an angel. That's completely fine. But it's because her mega form is there's two different directions for her mega form. And it just makes her whole evolution line super weird. Let's puppy, cat, angel, dragon. Furry dragon. If I'm trying to think of like other evolution lines for Digimon, like Agumon's an easy one, at least when it ends with War Greymon. Some of the other Greymons after that, I feel like getting a little bit too complicated in design style. I'm trying to think of one. I think Renamon had a really good one too. I liked Renamon. I really liked her evolution line as well. Dream crossover, be it show, toy line, game, or what have you, is in general not limited to Transform collabs and the like. Oh my god. Jeez, how many? How freaking many are there? See, I can't do Pokemon and Digimon because I'm sorry, Digimon would smoke any Pokemon. Like, outside of, like, legendaries, I don't think there's anything that could stand up to your usual Mega, and every Digimon is capable of becoming a Mega. So, that one don't work. I'm trying to go to my other ones. You know, Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles has been done. Once it was done really nice, and once we don't talk about. Jeez, if I'm trying to just, like, because I got so many favorites, you know, like, and it's hard to even come up with something that hasn't been crossed over at this point. You know, like, between Smash Brothers and Fortnite, I feel like I have seen every iteration of characters merge together and split, right? I'm sure if I sat down and really thought about it, I'd come up with something or other in order to actually, like, say, like, yeah, this would be a dream crossover. This would work really, really well. But it's not coming to me because it's too much. It's way, way too much to come up with. You know, like, my dream ones would involve Transformers, and we've talked about them in the past. I would love for them to figure out a crossover with Mega Man. I'd love for them to make a Samus gunship Transformer. It will never happen. Mega Man, because he doesn't have any good vehicles to work with that would let him turn into Mega Man, but also, like, you would never see Nintendo play ball and anything like that. They already had a chance. They had a chance to play ball when they did the Mega Drive Megatron, because, you know, Takara tried to hit up Nintendo to go, hey, Can we do a Super Nintendo Optimus Prime? And they went, no. Because there's no other reason why they would have done a PlayStation other than Nintendo didn't play ball. That's kind of it. It's like my dream crossovers will usually involve Nintendo stuff because it's nearly impossible to get them to do like crossovers outside of their own stuff. What character or toy do you feel needs the Chug Legacy modernization the most? This is again in that realm of we've pretty much done just about everybody at this point. You are looking at an extremely thin roster of characters from like the older toys that does not, that just like does not get covered already. The thing is, the one that I feel needs the modernization the most, we know we are getting, because leak lists include an Armada Sideways. For as good as that character is, and for as good as the design is, yeah, the original toy is leaving a lot to be wished for in the terms of just like articulation and design detail and accuracy. Absolutely needs, absolutely. But a lot of Cybertron, a lot of Cybertron, yes. But a lot of Armada, I do still think deserves it, I'd like to see an Armada Blur that actually had good articulation. I'd love to see a Demolisher in modern design. A Scavenger who had legs would also be great. There's a lot. And I would love to see it if Hasbro ever gets around to it. That's the thing, even if I'm not a huge fan of Armada, I still acknowledge what it did for Transformers as a franchise. So I do think it should get the respect it deserves. What is a character you believe is underrated and needs time in the spotlight? For me, I choose Nightbeat or Camshaft. We've talked about like what to do with the Omnibots, so I agree there. Nightbeat again is like criminally underused. He barely even gets any toys, which is crazy to me. For me, I think my pet favorite would be Reflector, because he presents not only like an easy way of having like a troop builder set up for like a particular roster of Decepticons, but also I just think it presents interesting story opportunities to have one bot spread across 3 bodies. You could definitely work with that. But you don't really get the chance. No one ever uses Reflector because he turns into a camera. Let's see, thought experiment. Suppose Hasbro starts making Haslab-ish multi-packs of random characters like BotCon to complete teams faster, and every tier is a new figure for the box set. If there was a pack where their base offers were Skids and Mudflap, and the tiers were Cybertron, Skywarp, and Beast Wars 2 Galvatron, would you support and promote the set or ignore it? Number 1, I would immediately ignore it. See, you are putting 2 of my favorites of all time, my 2 most wanted figures from 2 of my most wanted toys, and you're saying like, well, to get them, you need to get Skids and Mudflap. No. Because what Skids and Mudflap were designed for and represent is not worth my desire to have a couple of toys. Period. But also, you would never, ever see Hasbro mix those up. The Beast Wars 2nd Galvatron, you could get. Cybertron Skywarp, they could throw into a multi-pack anytime they would want. They canceled one release of it. Doesn't mean they can't revisit it because they still want to get more uses out of a Starscream mold. But like, if you're going to do a Haslab with Skids and Mudflap as the base and offer other figures, keep in mind, you would never get brand new molds that way. Because it's just too expensive to have, it's too expensive to have brand new toys as like stretch goals. Way too expensive. We only got it with Lio Kaiser because they knew. There was never a point where we weren't going to get Death Cobra, so they baked it in. That's not a surprise to me. But everything else, no, I don't see it. I don't see it at all. So I would not promote that set because you put Skids and Mudflap in there. Absolutely not. Yeah, I want a Cybertron Skywarp. Yeah, I want a Beast Wars 2nd Galvatron that isn't using gold plastic. Skids and Mudflap are off the table for me. For me, completely off the table. It's not worth getting a couple of nice toys to represent those two again, like they're a good thing. What Sonic the Hedgehog character do you feel is most deserving to have a super mode that hasn't gotten it yet? So, technically, Amy has gotten it. Because I would say Amy. I think by sheer accident, Amy is the most evolved and expanded on character in Sonic. Like, she has definitely done the most growth of anyone on that roster. She goes from just like total Sonic fangirling, and that's her entire character persona, and she can't even fight off one robot to protect herself, to today's games where she is just as much a hero as Sonic, right up there with him. Her speed can be comparable to his now, on top of abilities he doesn't have. And her fangirling, yeah, she's still in love with him, but she's also far more in control of it, far more mature about it. Which is probably the reason why Sonic is starting to think the other way in the most recent game, Sonic Frontiers. She's not being obnoxious about it anymore. But she doesn't have a proper super mode. It's like a Sonic 3 super mode, which is really just like flashing colors, which is lame. They did it to Tails and Knuckles too, and they deserve proper super modes. But for characters who have never had it at all, Rouge, I think she's the only. I consider Rouge core cast these days, and she doesn't have a super mode at all. And considering she's obsessed with emeralds, you'd think it would have happened by now. For Spooky Month, which do you think is scarier or more dangerous, the Terracons or the Energon vampire zombies from Transformers Prime? Probably the energy vampires. Like, the Terracons are just mindless zombies, are easy to chop down. The Energon vampires present a far bigger threat. They have a lot more power to them, and they multiply. If you let them get out of control, they grow in numbers. That's a lot scarier. Like, Breakdown was enough to threaten Starscream and Knockout together, whereas Optimus and Ratchet had no problem with a horde of Terracons. And I would argue that Starscream and Knockout are just as combat capable as Ratchet, at least. So yeah, like, no question there. It's the Energon vampires. If Cybertron, Optimus, Leo Breaker, and Wing Saber were remade in Generations, what would be their ideal size class of each, and should they allow all three to combine at once? So they never combined all three together before. I think the way that Wing Saber combines onto Optimus would make combining Leo Breaker at the same time exceptionally difficult and awkward. So I'd rather them not attempt it, because it's not something they are known to do. That said, I am aware people finagled ways of making it work. I don't know. Something about adding a wing pack to a character and then adding like a gigantic arm to one side, which would not only weigh them down, but offset the balance of the flight mode. That seems a little bit ridiculous to me. So I don't think they need to combine all at once. But for this, Cybertron Optimus has to be Commander class. Leo Breaker would probably work as Voyager. Like, maybe Leader Plus. Like, maybe Voyager Plus as a leader class. If you have to include extra parts to make the Savage Claw mode work aesthetically, or if it needs that much extra engineering to make it work and look correct. Then you just like, you pack him in as a Voyager with the arm mode, and then just like the glowing hand he had as an alternate part, if you prefer that to the built-in version. And then Wing Saber absolutely has to be a leader class. He's too big, he's got too much bulk. I would really want them to make Wing Saber a little bit more interesting. Like, honestly, like that toy is really not all that interesting, really. Like, the transformation's not all that great, and combining onto Optimus is mostly just wearing him on his back. I don't know, like, I love Cybertron Optimus, but I feel like his combinations let him down a little bit. What are your favorite Ultraman monsters? So, there is the thing. I am not an Ultraman guy. You know, I don't know them. I just flat out don't know them. I know that one flying eye that was making cat noises in one of them because the clip is funny. Like, it's as far as it goes. It's really as far as it goes. I know what Alien Baltan looks like, and I like Alien Baltan, so it's like that's about as close as I come to like a proper answer there. But favorite Tokusatsu giant monster in general. God, I hate to say something as basic as King Ghidorah or man, I hate, but I always loved King Ghidorah. I liked Space Godzilla too. I thought Space Godzilla looked really cool. The origin's stupid, but I loved the look of Space Godzilla. I'm trying to think if there's any others. I'm trying to think if there's any others like really stand out. I'm trying to think if there's anything from like Super Sentai that stand out as like giant monsters, you know, like but I feel like again it's a little bit easy. I can't even remember what it's from, but the like me and my friend Matt, I know we kind of stumbled on something one day that was like, and I think it was from Ultraman or something. I don't know what it was from, but it was like this watermelon based like kaiju. It was like crazy weird like a concept, but the thing looked so freaking cool. I don't know how they managed it, but I just can't. I can't remember where it's from. I wish I could. If you had a choice between these two, which one would you choose? A Legacy Classics Universe Optimus Prime or Legacy Prime Universe Optimus Prime? Classic, man. Okay, so basically updated versions of Classics Optimus or Prime Optimus. The thing, I mean, I think for that I would probably go for Classics. If only because I feel like that would be easier for them to render with today's budget. And also, Prime Optimus Prime already has like a nearly flawless toy with his first edition. Like, you just can't top that toy in modern engineering. I don't see a reason to attempt it. I've got the black repaint sitting on a shelf right over here, and it looks magnificent. There's barely any kibble on it. It's very show accurate. Articulation's great. Transformation's great. You know, like, that's one of those toys where, like, can you just, like, make the old toy again, but just, like, add more articulation? Like, that's literally all I would want or need. But yeah, I would probably classics. Probably classics. Suppose the future Haslab does end up being an Energon Optimus Prime and Wing Saber 2-pack. How would the Prime Force drones and the trailer factor in? Would they be one of the stretch goals, or would they already be a part of the set from the beginning? Would they get the Blue Bolts treatment and get full-on robot modes? Would they nix the trailer entirely? Really curious about your thoughts. So, they would absolutely include the trailer. Like, there's no way they would do a brand new Energon Optimus Prime without giving you the full package. You know, it has to be everything you got with that original toy, but it has to be done with modern engineering and sensibilities. So it has to include the trailer. Now, the trailer should do a lot more than the original one did. It should have an extra layer or level of transforming, so it wasn't so boring. The stretch goals on that set would be wild, because there's really not a whole lot you would want after that. It'd be like extra weaponry, like the Energon Blaster and Saber. Potentially the retools of the mini-cons that are getting released with Nemesis Prime. It'd be things like that, you know? Like, if you're going to do anything with the Prime drones, honestly, like, the biggest thing they need to do is just be more articulated and show accurate. You know, and I feel like you can do that without having to Like you wouldn't try cramming a robot mode into that. You know what you would do? You know what you would do? You would either come up with some way that they could combine with the trailer into their own vehicle, or you would have parts of the trailer that could actually like fill them out into making their own little robot mode. I don't know how you would do that because the trailer is literally just flat panels and boxes stuck together. But I don't know. Engineering's crazy these days. We do pretty much anything we want. Yeah, I think that's what I think that's all I got on that one. I think that's all I got on that one. I'm not sure what you do with like stretch goals of the whole thing. Yeah, that would be interesting to figure out. Have you ever visited the UK? If not, would you ever want to? I mean, yeah, like there's no way for me to afford this. Like, can I become a big enough deal in Transformers reviewing that TF Nation invites me out and pays the ticket? Fine. Like, there's that situation. But honestly, it all comes down to is like a cost and time thing. I've never been out of the US. My dream trip, if I ever had the budget and the time to actually like make this kind of trip, it would be to Japan. Like there's no question in my mind. I would love to see the UK. I absolutely would. I would love to meet people there. I'd love to go to TF Nation and just meet some fans from overseas. It's just never in the cards. Just like purely on a financial level, it's never in the cards. What would your thoughts be if there was an unproduced Titanium Armada hot shot? Oh, that would be nightmare inducing. Why would you give me that? Like, that's my new, like, sleep paralysis demon. Just the thought of, like, an Armada hotshot that is somehow produced by people who don't know how to make a Transformer and there's diecast in it. Though the irony is, it wouldn't have the gimmick. It wouldn't have the big cannon gimmick that would have obstructed the original toy. So there's elements that would be improved. He would have articulation. He might have better proportions. So there's, you come up with a nightmare scenario, but there's a silver lining to this. You got to do better than that. You got to do better than that. With Big Convoy coming out next year, do you see both Beast Wars 2 and Beast Wars Neo coming start trickling out slowly over the next few years? That's a really hard one to say. I feel like they can get away with like Lio Convoy and Big Convoy because they are Optimus Prime akin. If a kid sees it on a store shelf, it's just going to look like an Optimus Prime that does something really weird and different. Is it designed for collectors? Absolutely. But because it's Optimus Prime in nature, kids will gravitate to it as well. I don't know if kids would really care about Corrada. You know? I don't know if kids would like. Now there is another like twist to this. I would be okay with them releasing a brand new mold, a brand new like generation style figure of G2 Megatron and just call it Megastorm. And just pretend it's the Beast Wars second character. I'd be completely okay with that. The only one I think that we are going to see is probably Galvatron because they've done all the other leaders from the Japanese Beast Wars series. There's only one place to go now. Hasbro, complete your sets like you keep saying you're going to do. The most last minute question possible. Okay, it's currently 3 a.m. You did this 5 hours ago. So technically it was cut off at midnight yesterday. We'll let you get away with it because I didn't even announce that this was going to be late. So there you go. What are your thoughts on that DC Comics and AEW crossover they just announced? I love the recognition for AEW. I feel like it is very legitimizing for them to have such a prominent crossover with the Justice League and DC Comics. How they integrate into a story where like there are genuine superheroes with superpowers lying around, and at the most you have Darby Allin who's good at jumping on people from very high places. So, that's as much of a superpower as you get with a normal AEW roster. But it's going to be fun. That's the most important. Like, it's going to be a fun crossover. And again, I'm thrilled for AEW for like scoring something that's going to bring up so much good attention to it. Now we have to count on the story being good. That's the make or break. We can expect an army of Mirage, Dragstrip, and RID Skids clones for the eventual Transformers Formula 1 collab that may come out. Well, for starters, we have no idea if a Transformers Formula 1 collab will come out. I'm not necessarily sure it will because Formula 1 is kind of a huge thing in Europe, not such a huge thing in the US. And I genuinely, honestly, have no idea what it's like in Japan. Could be a fantastic sport, could be nothing. But should they do something like that? See, the problem with a collab like that is you're putting the same vehicle out so much at once that it is going to eat into each other, especially with the kid market, because they will want these at normal retail to try to help them sell. And then you're doing a drag strip that is not going to combine with any kind of Menasor, so that's an issue too. I mean, on a technical level, if on a hypothetical level, if they were to do this, yeah, like you'd see all the major IndyCar Transformers come about, or Formula One cars, you might see, you'll see Crasher as well. But yeah, like if that is a thing, I have not heard any rumors to such a thing, and I don't really think it would work. But if they were to do a Formula One collab, yeah, like obviously we would see a lot of Mirage and all that. Really, the more we see. So keep in mind, let's think about this properly. When they do collabs, it's almost never an actual Transformer character. They always create someone brand new. They don't just say like, well, here's such and such as this popular vehicle here. They only really did that with crossovers like Street Fighter, where it was Takara handling it, so Hasbro didn't have a say in that. Takara tends to just make Optimus Prime into crossovers. But for Hasbro-led stuff, oh, it's absolutely always brand new characters. The exception was G.I. Joe. So you wouldn't see that. What you would see most likely is similar to what they're doing with like the NFL crossover, where they're going to produce one Formula One car Transformer. Maybe it's a weird Mirage or, RID Skids down the road, but it's primarily designed to be repainted into various different Formula One cars and called different robots with different head sculpts, probably based on the drivers, that kind of thing. You'd see a completely new mold. It wouldn't be any of these characters. What if Transformers could regenerate like Time Lords from Doctor Who every time they're about to die? I think you're just describing Optimus Prime. For example, imagine each member of the 13 Primes regenerate into one another, with Prime being the name shared across all incarnations. You're back in your Doctor Who mood. So the problem with doing it with like the 13 Primes is the same character that just regenerates into other Primes is like the personalities and power sets are vastly different. All the Doctors have their own unique personalities, but they all have the same drive to protect and live by that whole ideal of being a doctor whose job is to make people better. So you wouldn't work with the 13 Primes that way. But yeah, what you're basically discussing what happens to a lot of Transformer characters. We've seen characters go through such regenerations, whether that is like a dying god Jinrai rebuilt into Victory Leo, or the Cybertron trio rebuilt into the Cybertron Defense versions. We've seen this kind of thing, and we've also seen it with G1 Optimus Prime as like, even like sometimes like with the Swarm, even as he is dying, he is then reincarnated into a new body and a new form. I feel like you could have some fun. Here's the fun thing you would do. You would throw it in as just some character. You throw it in as like a constant running gag in like a storyline of like imagine if in IDW 1.0, like you split up all these different medic characters. So like Minerva only exists in like ancient Cybertron. Ratchet is in the modern day Cybertron, and then like there's no major medic characters, but you hear about others. You hear about First Aid, you hear about Red Alert, but then you find out that like it's all the same guy. They just get rebuilt into someone completely new when they're too old to do their job now. That's why they're the best medic on the planet. Because all these really legendary ones we know from the Autobots are all the same guy. There you have a story. There you have a story, but it's got to be set somewhere where you can actually explore the history in order to actually convey it. Out of the newly revealed Mega Evolutions for Pokemon Legends ZA, which is your favorite so far? I will be honest, I haven't really paid attention to what the new Megas look like. I hate to say it, like, I will be honest with you, I'm not a huge Mega fan. Because, like, most Megas, I don't think do enough to change the design to them. But for the most part, the only one I would say that like, well, I like this one is probably I think it's Mega Raichu Y, because it's just Pikachu. It's just, what if Raichu Mega evolved back into Pikachu, because Pikachu is the king and lord of this franchise. And I'm not sure I like that on a level of, oh, well, this is a fun idea, as much as I love it as an idea of like, man, Raichu is such a joke now. It's like, I need Raichu needs something. Like the Alolan one wasn't enough. I don't know. So that's all. That's about where my only brain goes. I know as of this recording, the starter Mega Evolutions have leaked, and apparently some of them look cool. I have not had the chance to check them out yet. It's just my fault. It's like the only ones I really see are just like the goofy ones. Like Victory Bell apparently Mega evolves by strangling itself. Any idea of what a small cube of Energon would feel like when eaten? I'm imagining a fruit gusher. I would imagine like Pop Rocks, because it's energy, it's like I feel like little electric bolts in my mouth as I process it. But I'm a robot, so that doesn't bother me in any way. It's either that or like I'm like sour popping candy. Let's put it that. Let's be like that. Do you think there's a chance that Constructicons can be repainted into the 3 Autobot construction vehicles of G1 that are quite obscure? So you're talking about Scoop, Landfill, and Quick Mix. So I think there's room to retool some of that and make some fun homages. There is a thought in my head of like, it would be really fun if you could retool Constructicons into being Autobots. And take some of those obscure G1 versions into account to fill out the roster. You could have Hauler, or as like a replacement for Hook, for instance. Because that is always the trick, right? Like the trick with the Constructicons is they're going to sell like hotcakes, and everyone's going to want Devastator. But there are 6 molds that you're not going to get any reuses out of, except for maybe a G2 yellow, which they didn't even do with the Combiner War version. So yeah, you actually have potential there. Now, they wouldn't quite look like their G1 selves. You would have to fake it to a degree. Like Quick Mix isn't going to have that drum barrel retooled to go all the way through his body. You just have to make his torso sculpted to look like it is. But beyond that, yeah, like, you could make it work. I can see that happening. Which one of these would be the craziest Transformers crossover? Gorillaz, Dr. Pepper, Nickelback, Five Nights at Freddy's. Why did you throw in Dr. Pepper? Like, you got 2 bands and a video game, and those all have potential. Do you have any idea how quickly I would pay for a Gorilla's like transformer that's based on the car from Stylo, or like the submarine from Melancholy Hill. I would do that in a heartbeat. Uh, Nickelback's weird, but like Nickelback's weird about everything. I feel like you do it for the meme. Five Nights at Freddy's is doable, other than it's a horror franchise, and Hasbro's probably not going to want to touch that for their toy line. Uh, but like, yeah, why Dr. Pepper? It's a soda brand. No, that's absolutely the craziest. Who is your least favorite Decepticon in your favorite Transformers series? Well, that'd probably be Starscream, because my favorite is Beast Wars, and he's the only Decepticon in there out of Ravage. It's either him or Ravage. That's too easy. That's way, way too easy. Okay, so let's look at this from another approach, shall we? So, in that sense, we would have to go with either Prime or Animated as like a favorite Transformer series that has, I don't want to G1, again, too easy, but let's say Animated. Let's say Animated, for instance. I'll be honest with you, I don't really like the Starscream in Animated. I feel like he's a little bit too much of a whiner, and I feel like he's a little bit too much of a coward. And that's only exemplified when he starts getting his own clone army, but is still losing. Doesn't help when he just becomes a head either. So, yeah, like, surprisingly enough, because, like, Blitzwing is fun, Lugnut is great, Swindle is great, the Constructicons are just big lugs doing their job. I can make an argument for Dirt Boss being, like, not so great, like, not really thrilled with him as a character. Starscream and Animated kind of gets on my nerves a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. You know, but otherwise, like, that's, you know, like, I think like, by default, I have to go with him. Doesn't make him a bad character. It's just like, I don't know, the one that impresses me the least. Would you like more Universal Monster Transformers, even if it was just a black and white re-release of the other two? Yeah, it's weird that we never got the Wolfman. We didn't get the creature from the Black Lagoon. I would have laughed trying to figure out how they would do the Invisible Man and not just make it look like the Mummy with a trench coat, you know? So there's that. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen more. I really would have. Like, who did we have that we could have, like a cheat, like you take the Cheetor mold and you like sculpt wings so it could have been a Sphinx or something, and then you make that the Mummy, you know, things like that. But then the cheetah heads on the chest, and that prevents them from making it look more like it. Okay, so this is harder than I thought. I thought I had something, and then it immediately became more difficult than I wanted to bother with. Maybe Weird Wolf instead. Maybe Weird Wolf works for that, but no, Wolfman. Wolfman's got to be the wolf. I don't know. Like, yeah, I would love to see it, but I can see where they would stop because they start getting trickier. Is there any Transformers toy gimmick or trope that just doesn't interest you or you find tiresome, like combiners, triple changers, duocons, minicons, etc.? So, I love combiners, but I do feel like when Hasbro's in the mood to do combiners, they just burn it out so bad. Like, I felt like there was a period during like Combiner Wars where like everything just had to be a combiner for some reason. I got so sick of it. But as far as just like toy tropes that are tiresome, not really. Because we dive into things like triple changers, duocons, minicons. We dive into that so rarely these days. You know, like gimmick wise, I think the only thing that I found like tiresome or I was just disinterested in was like light piping. Because light piping for me never works. If you're in a dark room, you don't have a halogen bulb directly over their head, the toy looks dead, and I hate that, and I voiced that a lot. I never liked light piping for that reason. Or just paint their eyes. It's not hard. But yeah, like it really just depends on what they're doing at the time. You know, like they did Titan's Return, and I didn't get tired of Headmaster triple changers. But you know, by the time they got to Age of the Primes and they were still releasing more combiners, like this has been like for 3 years, and all these combiner toys feel the same. Could you please stop making combiners? Please stop making do Technobots and then stop doing combiners, please. That's where my mind was. That was the mindset. Like I love combiners, but you got to give me a break. You got to ease up. For Transformers Power Rangers collab on the toy side to be a Serpentera Megazord being retooled from TM2 Megatron, but I've been struggling what a Megazord inspired Optimus would be in this scenario. What mold would this best be suited for? So you would have a hard time trying to come up with a Megazord looking Optimus Prime. So Serpentera Megazord being retooled from TM2 Megatron. Keep in mind, TM2 Megatron is not a serpentine dragon, so you're going to deal with incorrect proportions there. It's doable, though. It's definitely doable. Your trick here is trying to figure out your trick here is that you're trying to figure out the better like mold for Optimus Prime. But really, if you're doing Transmetal 2 Megatron, I feel like it should be Beast Wars Megatron at the helm. And if you take that into account, then you could also probably get away with doing the normal Megazord as like optimal Optimus. You know, you dig the Age of the Primes mold out and retool it from that. It's not a great fit, but I think it's the only fit if you're going to do Serpentera. And then because like that mold at least has like enough like lack of design complexity that you could basically do whatever you want with it. And it has a tank mode, so you could still get a tank mode out of it. That is a really tough nut to crack. Like if you're just going with standard G1 Optimus Primes, like yeah, there really isn't anything that's going to suit that. Just because of like the way the Megazord works is so antithesis of how Optimus Prime works. All your toys have come to life and turned against you. Can you win the battle? They could potentially swarm me, but they are just made of plastic. They are exceptionally breakable. Also, I own a battle axe. There's advantages to being a Ren Fair kid. What is the MacGuffin they are fighting over? Okay, so my question last month was eaten. I'll try to recreate it. Sorry about that. And this is the conclusion for whatever story, wherever payoff. Zora's story. Autobot Starsaber, Trailbreaker, Beachcomber, Inferno, Ironhide, and Hot Rod, plus their human alloys, a boy and 2 girls, trouble ensues, versus Decepticons Deathsaurus, Tarn, Blitzwing, Reflector, Skywarp, and Double Dealer. I have put together an incredible roster. Geez, Deathsaurus and Tarn. Man, Hot Rod, you got some work cut out for you. You got to pick up some slack here in this team. What is the MacGuffin they're fighting over? Energy or Energon, Protoforms, Minicons, Keys, delicious Hostess fruit pies. Someone knows their old comic book advertisements. Do you watch Linkara, by chance? Oh, that's funny. Oh, it's funny. I mean, obviously the fruit pies. Like, obviously they're going to fight for fruit pies. Like, you're going to pull in Deathsaurus and Tarn, and it's going to be for something less than fruit pies. Given the cast, given what we're dealing with here, I mean, it's mostly G1 characters. I kind of feel like Energon is the go-to here. But personally, my favorite MacGuffin is Protoforms because it lets you have so many different story possibilities. So let's go with that. I'm going to go with Protoforms on that one. How would you write a G1 style Transformers episode set on Halloween? So, I mean, I think this is where you finally let let Hound have his own episode and just like create. I feel like the fun part would be letting an invisible Mirage and a hologram projecting Hound create just like this ultimate like haunted house. You know, and I know Cliff Jumper and Bumblebee would be really down to help with that. But that's also great opportunity for Megatron to sneak something in to try and take over humans that are like being led into what they think is like this trustworthy thing. And I feel like you play with just like the tropes of like Halloween, of just being like disguise. It's Transformers, disguises. You know, I mean, you'd think you would see it more often, right? You'd think you would see it more often. I would probably have like the haunted house set somewhere where the Decepticons are setting something up. And it's a lot of Halloween costumes and deceptions that beat him, like dressing up other things as the Transformers themselves, or disguising Transformers as other things, you know, that they aren't normally disguised as. Kind of play off of the whole, you know, Halloween costume aspect. That seems a little bit more fun. There's some fun there. I can see that working. What was the point of the aligned continuity if Hasbro wasn't going to enforce the lore? So the plan was to enforce the lore, that like all of this stuff that we're doing is part of one continuity. The problem was they just didn't know how to have oversight over so many different companies at once. They got, you know, they all got the same Bible. They all got the same, like, this is what we're doing with this universe, these are the characters we're using, etc. But no one was given any instruction to say, like, these are the other companies we're working with, stay in communication so you're not copying each other, and so that everything one company does works for what the other company is doing. That was the thing. It just lacked oversight. And that doesn't mean there was no point to it, but it does mean that like Hasbro made a major mistake when it came to that. Let's see, Age of the Primes has just ended. I think now looking at Age of the Primes there, I think I've been saying Age of the Primes when I meant Power of the Primes previously. Apologies if that was true. So, Age of the Primes has just ended, and Hashtag wants to revisit a certain toy line or series to theme their brand for the year. All the popular toys and medias from the series get reissued with tweaked QC. Takara makes new figures of the entire cast. Studio Trigger and Skybound make new comics to show based on, not limited to, past fiction, ignoring economic or public interest issues. What series are you picking? So basically, anything that I want to do gets remade, done by the best people, and everything gets new toys and gets reissues. So, no G1 show, Beast Wars shows, Bayverse, or Prime. Wow. Okay, so number one, your first answer is Victory, which is a G1 show. That's immediately out. Look at all of this that you're taking so much off the table or plate here. My options are like Cybertron, which of course I would love. Like animated. Animated is available in this selection. But like, God, like the original toy line was perfect. Why would you make new toys? I feel like the answer would be like what we said before. I think it's Armada, because I recognize how many fans came into the franchise because of Armada. And it's at the nostalgia point where revisiting it would be the appropriate thing. And if any series that has done a lot for this franchise deserves to have another round of toys that actually work, and another round of toys, or another round at the TV show, because Armada was horribly animated, I genuinely feel like that's where you go, right? It's got to be Armada. If you're leaving that, if you're taking so much off the table, Armada. Because it's got so much potential. I'd love to see it redone and live up to it. If you could guarantee that an obscure or hasn't been seen since G1 character would be added to the next show, who would it be? Personally, I picked Blaster. It's really odd that Soundwave's rival has been forgotten for 40 years. You make a very valid point. We've gotten so many takes on Soundwave, but Blaster is almost never to be seen. My easy answers are things like Star Saber, because it's a personal favorite. You know, like, there's that. I could go with my usual, like we just mentioned Nightbeat, who has a great amount of potential. We've mentioned Reflector, who has a great amount of potential. But like, yeah, you make a valid point for Blaster. Geez, you know what? I will go with that simply because, like, for all the ways and times that we kind of like reimagine Soundwave as different vehicle modes to kind of make sense of him in a modern cartoon and toy line without resorting like, oh, he's a cassette player. Kids don't know what a cassette player is. We've never really done that with Blaster, because the only time we've ever changed Blaster's alt mode is when he's a straight repaint or retool of Soundwave. So there's that. So actually, yeah, I think you're right. I think Blaster's overdue. Are there any specific examples of characters that don't need to be redone as modern figures? Age of the Prime Cybertron Sideways feels like an example where it wasn't necessary to exist. So you are correct. The only thing that toy has is an advantage over the original. Okay, well, it does two things. One, it doesn't, like, you don't have to leave the key in to make him a Decepticon full time. But also, you are correct in that they really redid that figure mostly for the sake of adding a waist joint to it. That's really the only improvement over the original toy it has. So that one is very unnecessary. Generally, a lot of the good Cybertron toys don't really need to have new figures made, you know? So, like, a lot of this comes down to animated. You know, like, I think animated knocked it out of the park with one of the best toy lines that was ever produced by Hasbro. And they're very, very good toys. And I don't really see any need for them to be redone. We're getting redos of them now. But, like, if you ask me, like, you know, if I think that, like, the new, like, Legacy, you know, animated Prowl stands up to the original, I don't think it does. I think the original one's just smoother and more fun to mess with. I say the same of Bumblebee. Like, that new Bumblebee might be size accurate, but it's kind of a fiddly little guy, and I'm not really a fan of him compared to, like, the original animated Bumblebee, which feels a lot smoother. So, yeah, I feel like it's a lot in the animated department. It doesn't mean I wouldn't like seeing them again. You know, give me another Ultra Magnus. I love that design. But that is hitting that point of, like, they're done so well. The originals are done so well, and the budgets are so much more limiting than they used to be. I'm not sure you could improve upon a lot of them. Is it wrong that I dislike Kicker Jones from Transformers Energon Super Link, perhaps for all the wrong reasons? Oh, this is a lot. This is a lot. A lot of people hate Kicker simply because he's loud, abrasive, and annoying. But for me, I think the idea behind Kicker's character had real potential. A kid born with the ability to sense Energon, traumatized by his father's well-intentioned but damaging experiments, leaving him bitter, distrustful, and emotionally abrasive. That setup could have been incredible. A kid who started, man, please, oh my God. This is in that same vein. This is in that same vein of, like, we're trying to keep this as quick as possible because these videos are very long. This gets exhausting. I will agree with you in that Kicker is a very poorly written character and poorly handled. A good concept that is basically dropped within, like, the first 5 episodes. And then he's just palling, because he's supposed to have this hatred of Cybertronians, Autobots included, and then it kind of gets dropped 3 episodes in. They never really pick it up. And you're right, he really doesn't evolve. Like, it feels like the writers had no idea what to do with him beyond being a brat. The writers didn't have any idea what to do with Transformers as a franchise. If you do remember, Energon is a cartoon where they ran out of plot halfway through, and spend 15 episodes floating in space shooting at each other with lasers. It's obnoxiously bad. Like, genuinely obnoxiously badly written. So yeah, they didn't know what to do with Kicker. They had a good concept, but like that's it. Yeah, like there's so many failings. There's so many writing failings in Energon. There's a top 10 I need to do. Here's 10 of Energon's biggest writing mistakes. Easy. That might be coming this week. Where's my pen and paper? I'm supposed to write it down when I get ideas like this. You're not overthinking it though. Like, you're absolutely spot on. Like, the character concept has potential. But yeah, like, in G1, how are the Dinobots able to fly? I don't know. Are you hoping for something more? I don't know. You could say it's recovered Decepticon tech from different fights. You could say that it is just Wheeljack designing them that way, and just the Autobots just happen to not be designed that way normally. Because there are Transformers on the Autobot side capable of just direct flight, whether that's tracks in vehicle mode or sideswiping his jetpack. Like, there are ways to make an Autobot fly. Oh, I don't know. So really, the real reason is it's so the writers could get the Dinobots to a fight scene without having wheels and the ability to drive at high speed. That's basically all it is. But canonically, they never explained it. If Hasbro and Takara were to do an update for Combiner Wars Skyrain, will they make him into a Commander class figure or a Titan class figure? So probably Commander, because that's how all the Commanders have been. They've just been a torso. The benefit of Skyrain is you could just literally just make him another Skylinks toy. Just shrink him down for the sake of engineering and just throw some extra bits in to improve the combined mode. And hey, Skylinks is kind of just like carrying a bunch of junk underneath them anyway. You could just cram it into the Lynx part, and I don't think anyone would notice. Yeah, he'd be a Commander, definitely. What would your reaction be if a Cybertronian crashed in your backyard? Probably, holy crap, my yard is on fire, and my pool cage just got destroyed. Honestly, fear. Like, there is nothing. Like you would love to think. You would love to think. I don't know why I'm using this as a prop all of a sudden. You would love to think that you would be Miko in that situation, right? Where you'd be super excited and just down for these giant robots. But the reality is, we would be scared to death of something from space landing in our backyard, standing up and just like walk around. Like, it would be horrifying. Like, at some point, like, if they want to present themselves like, hi, I'm here peacefully, like, I don't even know if I trust that. Because this ain't fiction. This is a robot in my backyard that fell from space. It's amazing you're still functioning after like 3+ years of daily videos going on. It's been 4 years now. We just hit the 4-year mark. I don't go on vacations. Functioning is an interesting way of describing it. I just had a week of total burnout because so much hit me at once. I found out that if something goes wrong in my normal daily life at this point, it really does fry me for this part of my life and does make this very difficult. You'd think it'd be easy to just come up with a topic and talk about it for 20 minutes. But no, like, aside from the fact I've done it almost 1,500 times at this point, I am running out of things I can talk about. But also, jeez. Oh my God, like, it takes so much focus to come up with something that's actually engaging at this point. And anything that offsets my daily life at this point is just makes it so difficult to keep up. But I ain't done yet. We are still going, still churning away at this. Since green is your favorite color, what is your favorite Green Ranger suit design, regardless of his character is cool or not? Your favorite design. So that's a very basic answer. It's gonna be the original Green Ranger. The original Green Ranger. From Go Ranger. That original Green Ranger, all the way back with the cloth suit and the cape. No, no. It really is. It really is Dragon Ranger. It's the Mighty Morphin Green Ranger. Because it's not just like green is my favorite color. But if you've noticed from my VTuber persona, I also really like a hit of gold to go with my green. And maybe that's just Tommy being very, very influential in my formulative years. But that is just the aesthetic I like. I really like that aesthetic. So yeah. Gold along with my green. Since you don't like War for Cybertron crosshairs, I don't either. What do you think of using the mold Transformers Generations Roadbuster to do a retool and a repaint? So the Generations Roadbuster toy is fine. I'm not crazy about it, but it's fine. But it's also a Voyager class. And the big thing for me is I would want all of the Target Master bots to be the same size. So unfortunately, that Roadbuster is out of the picture. You really just need a brand new mold. You really just need a brand new mold from the ground up. Stop trying to reuse somebody else. If you're willing to do like Sure Shot, that we've never reused the name even, let alone reuse the character. Like, at the very least, we've reused the name Crosshairs. Really like your content very much. You're an inspiration. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. The support is very appreciated. But yeah, like, you're off by a size. So I don't know if you've ever seen, like, Generations Roadbuster. It's a large Voyager, especially compared to Voyagers these days. So it really wouldn't fit in, unfortunately. Just kind of make a new mold. That's how it is. The other two got new molds. It's only fair Crosshairs gets one. Do you think Hasbro will eventually release Generation-style Euro G1 characters? That is the trick. I feel like there's room for them to do it now. Because if you did a brand new IDW Drift, you could retool him into Boss. If you did a... hey, we did Trailbreaker. You could retool that into... What's his name? I can never remember. I own the toy. The one they renamed Turbo Master for the Bakon set. Like fire. It's something very basic. I can never remember it. Someone in the comment section is going to correct me. But like, yeah, he's got the same exact shape and physique as Trailbreaker. They could do one tomorrow. You could do any Seeker as, G1, like Euro Action Master Thundercracker. I would love for them to, at the very least, get around to like the big major like leader characters. A Thunderclash would be great. A Clench would be better. Oh my God, the amount of money I would drop if they did a Clench. Yes. Like, absolutely, yes. What character do you think should get the Studio Series 86 Hot Rod treatment? A deluxe-sized character with Voyager engineering. Would you love to see a Prowl like that so it can fix the problem with the Earthrise mold? I don't think there is much problem with the Earthrise mold outside of the fact that they just need to stop using translucent plastic for his knees. Like, I know there's people down on that figure. One, I don't really think it's that bad of a toy. And two, I don't see how making him a Voyager is going to improve any budget on him. As far as like deluxe characters that should be like Voyagers so they could do everything they're supposed to, the hard part is how do you justify making it a Voyager, especially with what Voyagers are going to cost now. I feel like that's the answer to like every like where is the Transmetal of this character. I feel like that's the only way transmetals work, not only because the paint budget you're going to need in order to make them look like transmetals, but also engineering budget for that third mode. Now, some of it's kind of easy. Cheetor could probably just be a deluxe with his little flip out wings, but Rat Trap's actually got some pretty extensive engineering to make that little roadster mode work. And some of them, like Waspinator, like I know he's not in the show, but the Waspinator toy genuinely looks like a jet in his alternate mode. Like, that is a legit vehicle mode that very few of them actually have. So I feel like there is like the only place that you're going to see something like that. You'd have to do it gradually. If you did like an entire series where every Voyager was just like a deluxe with a lot of engineering, oh my god, riots in the streets. What would convince you that there is, in fact, a Hasbro or Takara designer that will often watch your videos and take your Transformer ideas, thoughts, and advice to heart and will do whatever they can to make them a reality? The only way to convince me that someone from Hasbro is actually watching is if I get a DM from Evan just letting me know, like just mentioning something from a video, or if some toy comes out with like Cybertronics sculpted or stickered on and it happens to read TJOmega, like things like that. Or if like, you know how many times I have been telling them like, you need to do like a 2-pack of a Predacon Rhinox and a Trigger Black Arachnia? You have any idea how many times I've been throwing that idea for a 2-pack at them and I still have not seen it? Like, that's the thing. It's like, even then, they could just hit on the same idea. To convince me that a Hasbro designer is actually watching these videos and takes my ideas to heart, something really, really weird and random would happen to me. Like, something that I very specifically came up with would have to happen. And that is nothing I can think of at the moment. At the moment, nothing comes to mind that would actually convince me to go, like, unless my name was on a toy. Or unless they finally do, like, Cybertron Skywarp, and it just says somewhere in the instructions, said, like, shut up, TJ, here it is. Like, it would have to be that level. It would have to be that level. Hey, Evan, Mark, whichever one might be watching, like, you probably got a prototype of that Skywarp. If it made it to a computer listing, could you just like mail it off to me? That's actually where I know that they don't watch, because for as long as I've been doing this and for as much content for Transformers as I put out and for as many subscribers as I have, I know a lot of other video reviewers and I know other websites that have gotten their like sampler boxes of like, here's a bunch of free toys for you to cover, for us. I never get anything like that. I'm never on the list for freebies. I'm never on the list for any kind of unique coverage, or like, like Thu got invited to actually like co-host one of their streams. I didn't get that. They did a victory, they did a victory saber as like a Haslab. I'm like, I'm the Star Saber guy, and I didn't get that. So yeah, nobody's watching. No, but nobody's watching. Be nice to think about it though. Really, it genuinely would have to be like Cybertron Skywarp is like announced, and when the figure comes out, there's like an Easter egg sculpted or painted onto it for me. Literally, that's the only way I would accept it. Do you think there are non-combining members of combiner teams? Would you consider combat vehicle Decepticons, Blitzwing, Quake, Bludgeon, as technical or honorary members of the Combaticons? Probably not. Probably not. Now, there are times where you can like add in someone who like I wouldn't mind characters who pal around with them. Like, I can imagine even before Combiner Wars threw him in as a as like a secondary aerial bot. I can imagine a period where Power Glide just palled around with the aerial bot because like it's just easier to hang out with them. But like, just because they share themes, I would never like lump somebody in. Because again, like a lot of this is you take away from what those characters are by lumping them into something else. Like if you're gonna do that, it's got to enhance what we've already got. You know, like what does Quake add to the Combaticons that Brawl doesn't already have? And I know there are different character personalities, but like, you know, like where was the mix there? Like, I don't know, like I don't know, like it doesn't work for me personally. Like I kind of think it just take away from things if you just start cramming people in. It's like when a wrestling faction gets too big and now like the greater parts are losing their effectiveness. We talked about AEW. The Don Callis family is gigantic now. You know, we just added Andrade and a duplicate of Hologram to the list, on top of all the other top stars. Well, we got Kazuchika Okada in there, who's one of the greatest wrestlers in the world, but he's just kind of in the mix now because there's so many members. And I feel the same way about like throwing random characters into like designated teams, just because they have a similar vibe or vehicle mode style to them. Yeah, like it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Like it diminishes. Because like I feel like your sixth is gonna get lost in the crowd, and then your main faction, your like mini faction, is just gonna feel, I don't know, like just feel watered down. What is the most unusual vehicle modes you would want for the main four Transformers? Now, by main Transformers, I feel like you're talking about Optimus, Bumblebee, Megatron, and Starscream, because that's open to interpretation. Megatron has been everything at this point. I feel like the most unusual things that I would want for these guys is something that we've already discussed in the past, which is switching the ideologies of the Autobots and the Decepticons, where the Autobots pick up the military vehicles because they're supposed to be the vehicles used by the heroes, right? And this is their way of stopping the Decepticons more quickly by having more firepower at their disposal, while the Decepticons actually deceive you by switching things up and actually being like hiding amongst Earth is just normal mundane things. So I think the most unusual I get is wanting Optimus as a tank, Bumblebee as a jet, Megatron as a normal semi-truck, and Starscream as probably like a car. Just like a normal car, like maybe a sports car, but still a car. You know, that's not unusual unless you keep the mentalities of the characters in mind. But yeah, other than that, like I could literally sit here for an hour and not come up with a good answer. Like, because there's just too many options to pick from. Could a modern day Energon Optimus work at retail price, or would it have to be Haslab because the trailer and combiner drones probably needed updated articulation? So, that is a very tricky thing. I genuinely feel like the only proper way to do Energon Optimus Prime at this point is going to be a Haslab. Because, like, you can't commander him like you did Optimus, because he has to have a trailer that's just as big, but the trailer has to be full of articulated things that combine onto him. Now, keep in mind, you could make him a commander and release him at retail, because the Optimus Prime, as part of that figure set, does not have to be, you know, big Voyager or Leader class scale. He's far more simple in design engineering than 86 Optimus Prime would be, because he has to be built for stability of being in that super mode. So you devote his engineering into transforming into like a more show accurate or more sturdy or better proportioned torso for the limbs. You take into account that the trailer is just going to be a hollow box that does even less than G1 Prime's trailer does. You take into account that, the main bulk of your figure, your Optimus Prime does not have to be that big, and it's not nearly as engineering complex. I think you could get away with being a commander class if it was released at retail. The problem you would have is getting a wing saber out. A wing saber on its own would die a death at retail. That's where I say this really should be a commander with a Haslab where everything's thrown in, just like Star Saber was. Which would you prefer? A season-long guest voice role for Ruby with a free choice of inspiration for your character, or the guest voice role of a character you have interest in for Death Battle? So, here's the thing. I like the Death Battle guys. We've talked twice. They are very cool people. At the same time, you're asking me to have a one-off voice character that is not going to have like full like rates as far as like monetary compensation goes, payday, but a season-long voice character. So the way voice acting works is you get paid by the hour and you get paid by the character. So if voiceover artists get like $70, $80, like professional level can get 3 digits per hour of work. So if I'm doing like a Death Battle voiceover, I'm probably not getting a whole lot of money. I'm probably getting below normal rates. But if I'm a season-long guest character in Ruby, oh my God, the paydays involved in that. Like now we're talking about making thousands of dollars on top of anything I might get for like royalties. If anything based on the character comes out. If the character is popular and they comes back for like a video game or something or a spin-off, then I'm talking like even more. Like I'm talking about like a potential voiceover career versus just a one-off episode of Death Battle. So yeah, like I don't really think, I know there's people who'd say like, I've got a good voice for voice acting, but I don't see myself as a good actor. Could I develop it and be better? Absolutely. But really, I don't view myself as like a voice actor because I know voice actor friends who are way better at this than I am. So no, but if you give me the choice, yeah, full season of me in Ruby, especially if I get to choose the character, man, that would be so good. This is about Gun Megatron, but not in the way you think, but feel free to skip. It does count as breaking the rule. Does G1 Megatron being a gun actually benefit the character in the long run? No. Now, because he is a gun, in the long run, you are correct in that. Now, it doesn't help him in the short term, because turning into a gun and having one of his minions shoot him is stupid. But also, in the long term, he does get to have a lot more variety. He gets to have a lot more identity. He gets to have a lot more of, a mix-up. So you are right in that, yes, overall it does benefit him because Megatron has become very malleable. He does become very versatile. That said, I think we're just kind of stuck with a tank from now on. But you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Being like, incidentally, the gun does help him. Do you think Legends or Legion class figures stand a chance of coming back at retail? I definitely think they have a chance. We've talked about this in the past because Generations as a toy line has no entry point right now. Next year, you will be dropping $28 to get a deluxe figure as the smallest toy and the cheapest toy available in any Generations line, Age of the Primes or Studio Series. That's too much to ask a kid. Because allowances are better these days, but they're still not great. I've seen kids save up some crazy cash down at the toy shop, but to ask them to try out a new toy line for like $30 after tax, that's too much. You need something. 15 with the new prices, maybe $18. that can be that be for smaller characters that still feels like Generations engineering. You need that entry level point. And if Hasbro figures out that they need an entry level point to those lines, then absolutely there is a chance that they come back. You know, I think the problem with like Legends, Legion, Core, all of them, I feel like the problem there is just like you're just not getting enough for the price that they paid. Just way too small. Way too small. Why hasn't Hasbro Takara repainted the Legacy Stunticons into the Autobots from the episode Masquerade? It's not because of the vehicle modes. The vehicle modes are easy. It's the robot modes that are absolutely nothing like what the original ones looked like. Also, keep in mind that yes, while that makes sense on paper, you never actually saw the actual Autobots like properly combined into a Menasor that was in their normal colors. So what would be the point of replicating something that never existed? So and also you're talking about like a really niche, weird version of Optimus Prime at a $90 price point to do that as Motormaster. It's an Optimus Prime, so technically, yes, it would sell, but I don't know. I think the ship has sailed. I think in Combiner Wars you could have gotten away with it, and they technically did it in Combiner Wars. They didn't release a Wind Charger, which I believe is part of that mix-up. But, you know, that's as close as you got. You got very close with that. Let's see, which of these Sentai tropes do you like the most? Body swap, evil copy rangers, evil rangers, ranger wannabes, or imposters? I like the evil rangers. I think that adds a lot more spice to it. And for future reference, if you ever want to know the opposite side, I hate body swap. I hate the body swap trope because it's literally, I don't care how you mix it up. I don't care what the characters switched up are. It's literally the exact same episode every time you do it. Oh, isn't it awkward that this character has to deal with the other character's life? Oh, wow, now they have to deal with each other's power sets, and this is super awkward. Oh, but they're learning to adapt to it, and they're getting to understand each other better. They're becoming better friends because of this. Now they're working together better against the monster. You know, and it's the same episode every time. I'm doing terrible on time this month. Let's keep going. Would you get a brand new Cybertron Optimus Prime if he turns out to be a commander class in 2027? That would be the fastest way to see roughly $100 vanish out of my bank account. I would get a brand new Cybertron Optimus Prime at any price point. Commander? Yes. Titan for some weird reason? Yes. Haslab, pay me, drop $300 so I can also get, Wing Saber and Leo Breaker thrown in? Yes. Like, there is no option. There is no alternative. You throw a Cybertron Optimus at me, I will spend the money it takes to get it. Do you think Hunt for the Decepticons could work as a series, kind of like our RID-15, where the Autobots are tracking down Decepticons after the events of Revenge of the Fallen? The problem with Hunt for the Decepticons is that, yes, you could do something akin to that, but that does, like you said, come across like RID-15. You could try to basically what you're talking about is making a Nest series, where it's just the Autobots tracking down loose Decepticons on Earth. And it would feel very RID-15. The only problem with Hunt for the Decepticons is that toy line that would be based on is so like loosely defined. Like the Hunt for the Decepticon range gets super weird because it's literally just like whatever they wanted to make, even if it was G1, thrown in wherever a wave had space for it. So it ended up being super weird. See. We all think of things we would change if we could go back in time, but what's the one thing you'd never change, even if you could? Like what? Meeting my girlfriend. I mean, there's easy answers to this. It's one thing in my life I did that I would never change, even if I could. that is hard because we do live by our regrets, you know, like I wish, you know, like I wish I had made a move on this girl. I wish I had taken this career opportunity. Um, I wouldn't have changed this career path. Like I will admit, like I don't make great money on YouTube. I do need the toy job to kind of pay all the bills, the toy shop job to pay the bills, but like there's something weirdly blessed about this life. Like this let me get to know my favorite voice actor as a friend. This let me meet legends like Kevin Conroy before he passed away. This, you know, this direction I've taken has allowed me to travel around the country, which is crazy to think about. It's the reason I have my girlfriend. It's the reason that, um, God, it's the reason I have so many of the friends that I have now. Yeah, like just this decision of like I'm stuck at home taking care of my grandmother. I need something to do with all the spare time because I can't go out and get a normal job right now. Let's just start making these weird toy videos on YouTube and see if it works out. And I don't know if it's worked out yet or not, but you're here, so it means something. What is the best to worst Studio Series 86 Dinobot? Okay. Um, trying to think of them very quickly here. I hate to say it, but I think Swoop is the worst just because he's very simple in design. He has to be because of the way he's engineered and designed, but he just does not have like the same magic that some of the others have. After that would be Sludge. I think Sludge is fine, but and he does have some interesting transformation tricks, but nothing thrilling. After that would probably be Grimlock. Grimlock is great, but he is very much just standard Grimlock. He's not doing anything wrong, but he's not doing anything above what I expect. Probably Snarl beyond that. Snarl does some really cool stuff. I really think Slug is my favorite. Slug has some really cool transformation tricks that I would not have expected out of him. Um, you know, and so does Snarl too. Like the way his like beast legs vanish into him, I think is really really cool. So yeah, that's a loose memory. Like I haven't messed with all those toys in a while, so don't quote me on that. But like that's what comes to mind immediately. With Zets just around the corner, what theme would you personally choose for your very own writer series? Personally, for me, it'd be superheroes. A gimmick would be comic book pages. Um, I don't know. I feel like Kamen like we did lock gimmicks. I would love to see something for like I would love for Kamen Rider to have its own key gimmick akin to like what Go Kaiger did. That's mostly just me finding like me collecting keys as a kid, kind of like still having that fascination. And also just like the versatility that a key can present, just as far as like story wise, you know, because there's a lot of imagery and a lot of like uh, extra meanings you can gain out of keys. I don't know what the story theme would be though. That's another one where I just like sit and think about it a lot. I know you're not very keen on Dinobots combining, but would you be on board if they combined if they were more proportionate to the dinosaurs they turned into? No. That is not my issue with them. My issue with them is that the Dinobots are cool the way they are and do not need to combine in order to actually feel cooler. I don't think it adds anything to them to actually combine. I feel like what makes the Dinobots cool is the fact that they can go toe to toe with someone like Devastator without the need to combine. Because they're the only Autobots strong enough to do it. Until certain episodes in season 3 where you're Perceptor and you can just shoot Devastator apart with one shot. Where you're Perceptor. Why? I hate Carnage in C minor. Have I ever expressed that on this channel before? I'm doing it again. But yeah, my issue is not with the proportions of the dinosaurs. That's not the problem in the least. The problem in the least is that they don't need to do it, period. Could we see a Magnetar cameo make appearance on the channel? Number one, the outro needs to change because all of Magnetar's forms are now available, so I can have a little bit more fun with the outro. And I want a little intro blip. I know it's gonna be annoying if I do like a little intro blip for Magnetar, but like I really do need to push that. I have so much invested in this streaming VTubing thing that I really do want to see it succeed. And for a brand new VTuber, it is making some good progress, but like considering how many of you are here and how few people are over there, like it feels disproportionate, right? Like even if only 10% of my audience here was willing to migrate over to Magnetar, I would already have more followers and viewers there than so many other people that are in their first year of VTubing. It'd be ridiculous. It'd be such a great kickoff. But I understand it's not for everybody, and it's very hard to get people from YouTube over to Twitch. But no, Magnetar has made a cameo. He was my April Fool's video this year. It wasn't that well received, so we're probably not doing it again. Don't worry, I've got better stuff for April Fool's already in my head this time. I got funny stuff. But as far as like making like a proper cameo, like it would have to be like, I'd have to figure out something for like a plastic addict or like a scripted thing. I couldn't just throw him on here. Now, at some point, we will be doing a video kind of describing my first 6 months as a VTuber, like how the experience has been. And I do want to detail the creation of Magnetar because I want everyone to see and appreciate just how much effort and work went into it. Because it's like literally 2 years of my life devoted to what ends up on that Twitch channel. And yes, Zetz is really, really good. They did good on this one. After Age of the Primes ends next year, what would you like to see the Generations toy line handle next? So I've kind of talked about this before. I kind of want to see like a line of mechanical beasts. I think it'd be a great time to get a new Predaking out there. I think it would be a great way of getting some of like the animal pretender characters out that still don't have toys, modern toys. I think it would be a great way of mixing in the transmetals. And then you can do fun, weird stuff, you know, like that's where you get your Shockwave whale thrown in as a normal toy. That's where you get like, you can have Optimus or Megatron turned into like interesting things, you know, you can play with it. Like you can have familiar characters, but like if the Shockwave does well, do a whole toy line like that. And I'd be down in a heartbeat. DC already has 2 miniseries reinventing their heroes from the ground up. Tangent Comics and Just Imagine, Stan Lee creating the DC universe. When will it be Marvel's turn? I feel like Marvel does it every time they reboot Ultimate. I think that's pretty much what they've done. How they've figured that out. Now, here's the thing. DC Comics is a lot harder to pin down to one creative mind. You know, we credit Stan Lee as the heart and soul of Marvel Comics, and he really is. But that also doesn't exist without Jack Kirby. So even that is a little bit under dispute. But for Superman, for DC, you've got individual writers like Superman, Batman, but so many of those characters came from different people. You don't have like one hub like Stan Lee that created so many of these different characters. So you don't have that one person you can just hand Marvel to and go, hey, you redesign this and have fun. You know, like you'd have to hand it to like a Todd McFarlane or something, or like an independent comic writer. What separates Transformers from the superhero genre, considering someone like Optimus Prime values life like Superman, especially in animated's case where they costumed villains? So nothing really. You know, Transformers can absolutely be superhero genre, depending on how they are written. This goes back to my favorite answer of all answers in these Q&As. It depends on what you do with them. Because yeah, like you said in your examples, in animated they are treated like heroes. So like yeah, it's very much like superhero vibes in animated, and you can do the same thing. It's with another Transformer cast or story. It's just a matter of like writing it well to make sense. Have you seen Trigger's new panty and stocking anime? And if you have, what are your thoughts? Um, as chaotic, incoherent, and amazing as season one was, maybe more so because they did some extremely weird things in season two. I loved it. I really, really loved it. Looks like, hey, I'm a has-been hotel, hell of a boss guy. So, like, no surprise, panty and stocking is right there in my wheelhouse. As much, like, I feel like because I've been doing this PG family-friendly YouTube thing here on the TJOmega channel for so long, people forget that TJTV on back in the days when Blip was a thing. I think people forget that's where my sense of humor really lies. And I have some really messed up things I laugh at. Nothing like offensive or no, nothing offensive or harmful or anything like that. But I mean, I do really like the dirty humor. I really like it. So yeah, like I really did enjoy the panty and stockings. Now they've already teased a third season. It better not take as long as the last season did. I will be angry. But this is Amazon footing the bill now. So I can absolutely expect hey, if Amazon has really liked the results that Has Been Hotel has been getting for them, they're going to eat up any content that's similar to it, and you don't get much closer than panty and stocking. It's exceptionally similar. What would you consider to be the most underrated final form in Kamen Rider, where it's for the main, secondary, or other kind of rider? So for final form stuff, like I feel like most of final form stuff is held like in pretty good reverence. Like I don't think there's anything that's like horribly underrated. Like I've got my favorites, like Cross Magma, but I feel like a lot of people like Cross Magma. So that doesn't really apply, does it? I'm thinking of anything else. Like I do feel like Shining Form doesn't get enough credit, and that's me just going back to being an Agito fan. But like Shining Form just being just like it's supposed to represent this pure radiance, which really doesn't get explored often enough. Like it's kind of counterpost to like a lot of Kamen Riders where their powers kind of rely on dark elements, whereas this is literally like powered by evolution and light, and that feels like it should be a little bit more, out there. It feels like should have been a little bit stronger representation for it. How do you think an interaction between every version of Sentinel Prime would go? Oh God. Oh God. Um, man, how do we get across this? How do I get this across? I mean, the original G1 is just cowering in a corner because this is way over his head. The Bayverse one got the Bayverse one died as soon as somebody punched him because Bayverse Transformers are made of paper mache. You'd probably have animated and IDW Sentinel Primes just getting along over their shared xenophobia. Um, God, do I really want to think about any other versions of Sentinel? Not really. I feel like I really do feel like it would come down to just like IDW and animated getting along and teaming up and just like laying waste to the others just because they're both power hungry. If the version of Zordon from your recent Power Rangers Transformers crossover was ever resurrected / placed into a blank Cybertronian body, what do you think his alt mode would be? Oh, that's a weird one. Oh, that's such a weird one. For me on Zordon, hmm, I think the most hysterical thing would be make him a headmaster, right? I think that would be the funniest thing. Um, I would probably base this closer on for the Titans Return Alpha Trion toy, which that's a horribly underrated toy, by the way. Because the spaceship mode works, I think the lion mode works for Zordon. You can like pattern him as in warrior garb, for his like robot mode design and retool the chest to be more ranger design style. Or you could actually put the tube. Like, what if you actually just put the Zordon tube like in the chest as the actual pilot, and then like you just had like some kind of drone head on top just for the sake of having a normal head? I don't know. Like I feel like that's the basis. I feel like that's a good toy to start basing that one on. What do you think of the Knights of Guinevere pilot? I loved it. It's great to see Dana Terrace just like absolutely eviscerating Disney with her new series, but also it's getting into the storytelling and dark imagery that she really likes, that Disney would not let them even approach. I don't really have any like theories cooking on this one. It's just a super weird dark series, and I'm looking forward to it because Dana Terrace is a fantastic writer, and I'm really really looking forward to whatever they do with it. Do you play Pokemon TCG Pocket? If so, what is the best pull you have gotten? So, I do play Pocket. Um, this is the part where I should just like shamelessly plug my code so more of you can hop in and give me like shop points more often. But I really like, I think some of the best pulls, I do have some of the immersive cards, not all of them, but I do have some of the immersive cards. Like I've got the immersive Mewtwo, which is great. I've got a few of the gold rares, just a few. Actually, like until this new set came out, I was set complete. Someone was nice enough to trade me the last few cards that I needed. So I'm set complete. I got all of them outside of just like full arts, like full illustration cards that are stupid rare. But as for like individual, just like one version of every card, complete. And then this new set's kind of screwed that whole thing up, didn't it? How do you think the war should end? A clear victory, or Optimus Prime and Megatron or any faction leader making peace without the Autobots wiping out the Decepticons? So, let's see. This is my biggest complaint about Prime. Most of the cons were dead in, while Cliff Jumper was the only Autobot death at the end. Yeah, it's very one-sided, isn't it? Um, so that's the thing about Optimus Prime, is that he knows he's strong enough to keep coming back and stopping Megatron, whatever his plans are, until he can get Megatron to surrender. Optimus had so many chances to just kill Megatron and end the war, but he doesn't because he's strong enough to try and get Megatron to actually surrender. Because he knows, Optimus Prime knows, if you just kill Megatron, someone rises up to take his place. Starscream, Soundwave, Shockwave, and it doesn't really end the war. And that's why the war has gone on for 4 million years, or 9 million years more correctly, because no one just does what it really takes to end the war, which is to get one side to realize they aren't going to win ever. So beating Megatron to the point of surrender is the only way that happens. Yeah, you would have Decepticon cells like Starscream and all that pop up who would want to continue everything, but you'd have enough Decepticons laying down arms that, yeah, you would basically be done with the war at that point. Let's see, what if the Maxwell succeeded in getting to contact the probe to Cybertron? Then you'd probably see an episode where Megatron is just frantically trying to eliminate Optimus and the rest, just trying to eliminate the Maximals as quickly as he can, or just flat out trying to escape the planet as quickly as possible. The Maximal ship is closer to being able to fly than the Predacon one. We saw it fly. And if they were to have the entirety of the dark side to refurbish the Axelon, then yeah, you probably could get away with like making it a getaway vehicle. And because it's the Maximal ship, if the Maximals do turn up in time to come save Optimus Primal's crew, you could have Megatron infiltrate and just be like the Autobot shuttle in 86. Like, he would plan far enough ahead to actually be ready for that eventuality. So yeah, that's probably how it would go down. You know, and then if the Maximals like prevented Megatron from wiping them out, which they probably would, then the series would just be over because the Maximals would send reinforcements to capture the Predacons. Why don't we get more submarines? Not just military submarines like the Minicon Deep Dive or the GoBot Dive, but the scientific yellow bubble subs LEGO uses for their underwater themes. So it's basically down to just playability. You know, submarines are cool, but not a lot of kids know a submarine, and it has this very unusual shape to it. You know, it's not a jet or a spaceship or a car, not something typical. You know, it's a tube, you know, or in your case, like, yeah, it's just like a little diving vehicle, submersible. And they're fun vehicles, but they're not very well known to a kid. And just like the play factor of imagining yourself playing with it, you know, you have to imagine how a kid plays with this stuff. You know, like, I'm swimming in the ocean. Oh, there's nothing else here. You know, whereas like it's it's still it's still just down to like, I don't think kids know what to do with a submarine toy. Favorite playable character in Final Fantasy VI? Mine is Shadow. Sabin. Absolutely Sabin. I love a JRPG that lets me put in Street Fighter combos. But no, I just really I like the combat style. I like the blitz techniques. I like the characterization. Like, Sabin's fun. Let's see, which character did Keegan-Michael Key voice best? Toad from the Super Mario Brothers movie, or B-127, aka Bumblebee Badass-tron? I would say Toad, just because that's a much harder voice. You know, because like that's a more like there's more. I feel like there's more expectations to that role because we are so familiar with how Toad sounds. So to change it up so he can voice it comes with a challenge, and I think he rose to that pretty well. Whereas Bumblebee, like, we hear him like half of the fandom has never heard him speak because they don't watch anything but the Bayverse movies. But you know, for Bumblebee, like, I think acting wise, he did as good a job as he always does because he's a talented actor. It's down to the writing. Toad's writing was actually pretty spot on. Bumblebee's writing was designed to be annoying, and in that he did well. But no, I prefer Toad. I prefer the Toad performance. See, one of my first little favorite TF fan things is artists characterizing Slash as the gremlin little sister of the Dinobots, and I made a dumb connection to the G2 Greymon Grimlock. Do you think a hypothetical G2 Dinobot Slash would work with Gatomon-esque colors? Like maybe a primary white color scheme with either pink or yellow stripes. So I see what you're getting at, where you're painting her as like, you know, the sister's character. And that does technically work in that Gatomon is champion level, just like Greymon. And yeah, she's a small champion. I don't think she's got the vibe of like a gremlin little sister. Yeah, she doesn't come across like that to me. So that one's a little bit trickier. So, I mean, it's not a bad color scheme. It's not a bad color scheme, like, just to do the character in white. I see the character in white with yellow claws and just like hits of purple. But yeah, like it's a funny idea. It's a funny idea to make a companion. I see where you're going with. Do you think that the Metal Hero genre could come back as a 3D CGI series, or is it fully dead? Um, I feel like if you tried to bring it back even as a CGI series, like you're just floating more toys out there. You're just floating more of the same style of content. When Super Sentai and Kamen Rider pretty much have everything on lock right now. So I do think it's fully dead just because there really isn't any room for it. But like if the worst comes to happen and like one series or the other kind of dies out, I feel like Metal Heroes makes a comeback then. Will you watch the anime Tojima Wants to Be a Kamen Rider? Probably. We've had a lot of anime doing Kamen Rider stuff, and I've really liked it so far. You know, I've liked the Red Ranger Isekai a lot. Like, I've really liked that. I've been recommended Loser Ranger more than once. I have, what was the other one? Oh, I don't know. It's the one where like the Red Ranger and the villainess are in a romance and they're trying to keep it secret. There's that one too. I only saw a little bit of that, but I did enjoy that. Yeah, we got a lot. We got a lot of animated representation right now. Do you prefer Six Shot blue or green? He's teal. Six Shot's kind of in the middle of the two. I don't think you can define him as blue or green. But though, if you're going to ask me, oh, I know what you mean though. I mean, like in cartoon he's blue, and in toy he's green. Um, I would, in that sense, I would probably prefer blue. But also, I'm a sucker for anything green. Can you name a transformer for every letter of your first name? I mean, it gets easy for a lot of them. Like, like I could do I could do that easily with things like, okay, so we have like Thundercracker, Lio Kaiser, Erector, and Rotor Storm. But the Y, not a lot of Transformers whose names start with Y. I could try Yokotron and just make it someone who is cartoon exclusive. But beyond that, trying to think if there is any Transformer character that comes to mind whose name starts with Y. And you are out there, for the people who are still awake and listening to this, thank you for using me as a podcast, by the way. I'm sure you are coming up with like an example here or two, but there really aren't a lot, are there? There really are not. There really are not. I probably have to go with Yokotron and just keep it to a fictional only Transformer. I'm having a hard time figuring out one that came out with like just the name. Like my brain keeps going to Yellow Jacket. Like, no. I think that's a Marvel villain. Have you ever seen the short-lived Choseishin series, Grand Caesar, Justerizer, Caesar X? No, I have not seen any of those. Just generally, just because I like my wheelhouses where they are. I'll stick to Super Sentai and Kamen Rider. Are you excited for the second Simpsons movie that was just announced? Not especially. I really haven't cared about Simpsons in a long time. I think it's cool they're doing another movie, but it's not like thrilling me or anything. It's just, oh hey, you're doing it again. It's been a long, long time. And their cast members are starting to die. So maybe get that out sooner than later, just in case. But yeah, like Simpsons has just been so far off my radar for like literally 2 decades now. I genuinely don't have any opinions. Have you seen any fan films from TFI Creations? If so, thoughts? In my humble opinion, their Interstellar remake is not just the best fan project, but one of the greatest pieces of Transformers media, period. No, I'll be honest with you, I've never heard of them. So I have no idea what they've created or what they've done. What's your monthly opinion on Kamen Rider Zets? Well, you don't need to ask me this every single month because we are talking about Kamen Rider Zets every single week now. Despite how few views it gets, I still want to talk about this series every time we see an episode because I do really, really love this series. I'm so happy that such a good series is the first one they're doing in English. Let's see, don't think I don't notice this Sailor Moon pose in your avatar. Which depiction of Optimus do you prefer? The father-like figure in G1, or the Marmia, or in some of the Marmia, or the stoic leader? I don't like the stoic leader. The stoic leader to me just feels like a very flat character, like very one-dimensional, like if someone just like hears about how Optimus Prime is, they just kind of assume they're this stern, stoic general type. And just like, because that's what they think a strong leader is, but like, that's not what Optimus Prime is. Optimus Prime has heart. And I feel like when you're the stoic leader, it's very difficult to convey the heart of the character. You know, the father figure in G1 and Earthspark, a few other series recently, like, that's far closer to what I envision as Optimus Prime. That's absolutely where you need that extra level to him. Like Skybound does a great job of like keeping that heart in the character. Let's see, you like bugmen who do karate. You also like a bugman who swings on webs. So I'm curious, what was your favorite Spider-Man toy as a kid? I had the super articulated one that came out for the animated series. Like the one where the gimmick was just how many points of articulation it had. That was like the first time I realized like how much I just really wanted these figures to be able to pose. Beyond that, I really liked my Carnage figure. I love Carnage just as a villain in general, despite how many times writers screw him up. I kind of regret it. I had a chance at a toy shop like months ago to grab the vintage jumbo size version of that Carnage toy, and I really wish I had done it. The only reason I didn't is because it's one of those pieces where it just feel really odd in any of my shelves. But like, I would want it too close. I want it out and on display, but it's so big it doesn't fit in anywhere. You know? So it'd be an oddball in the collection. And I'm not sure that would have been the right approach. Has Missing Link replaced Masterpiece as the high-end collector's line? I don't think it's replaced it, but it's certainly provided an interesting alternative, hasn't it? Like, we're still getting Masterpiece stuff, you know? Rat Trap's coming out, and Rat Trap looks incredible. So it's not so much that it's like replacing it, it's just providing an alternative. In the same way that like Studio Series is a collector's line and Generations is a collector's line, but they're not eating each other because they're going for very different things. So you think the C-Cons will be reissued or be redone from the ground up with the frame system concerning the price and demand for them? So actually, considering the lack of demand for them because they are not one of the major combiner teams, I really don't think we're going to see another set of C-Cons, especially because they present like that added little hitch to their engineering of they also have to be target masters. So that's going to be a hurdle as well. I don't think we're going to see the C-Cons again. I just don't think they have the popularity or notoriety to justify that much new toy product for them. See, if one Transformer have a Tesla alt mode inflicted upon them for their live action alt mode long term, who should it be? I never want to see a Tesla in a live action Transformers movie. If a Cybertruck ends up in the new Michael Bay movie, I'm boycotting it. I'm not going to go watch. And I don't care how big of a hit to revenue I take because I'm not talking about the movie. I don't care. As a punishment, it'd be like maybe that's how he gets Skids and Mudflat back. It's like, as a punishment, you have to be a Cybertruck. No! I don't know. I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want that put on anybody. Had Transformers Heavy Metal, the Pokemon Go like game, not been canceled, which Transformer would be extremely common to find in your region? Around here, probably some of the more compact cars like Cliff Jumper, because we got like a lot of Mini Coopers in my area. I don't know. We're going by environmental, probably Beachcomber or Sea Spray, because I am very close to a beach. There's not a whole lot of vehicles like them though. I'm trying to think. It was like, I don't really know. Like there's just kind of like a standard array of cars here. You know, it's not like I find Ferraris or anything, or Lamborghinis to turn into Sideswipe or Sunstreaker. Yeah, it's difficult to ask. It's difficult to name. I hate the AI answers. They're always awful. They're always awful. If Lugnut gets a beast mode, wow. What kind of beast mode do you think he would have? I mean, personally, I thought whale, because they are large. When I saw the whale shockwave, I figured make for a cool Lugnut retool. Lugnut would not want an alt mode that keeps him away from Megatron. Megatron in his alt mode, usually, like if there's a Lugnut, then Megatron, like Lugnut is going to take on whatever alt mode allows him to work beside Megatron. If Megatron's a tank, Lugnut is going to be like a big missile launcher truck. If Megatron is an Osprey, then is it like an Osprey or like a flying vehicle? He's going to be like, oh my god, I don't know a good bird for, I don't know, god. He'd be like, he would be whatever lets him go around with Megatron. If that's a land animal, it'd be a similar land animal. Like if it's a man, like that's a hard one. That's really hard. That's really hard. Now, I did once upon a time, I did recast that mold as BotCon Sandstorm, because he has the big clampy hands, and he and he has that vehicle mode tail that kind of like I could see is like the scorpion tail just stretched out. So let's just go with that old answer, and I would say a scorpion. Just like a giant, just like a giant, very dangerous scorpion. Like a monster scorpion. What is the next collab figure from Transformers? They do the Geo Cruiser from Captain Planet as a Transformers. Would you buy it? So that is an amusing one. That is an amusing question. So I wouldn't mind it. I don't know if the Geo Cruiser is enough of like an icon for a crossover, but I wouldn't mind it. I really wouldn't. Like, I would think it would be fun. That would be a great chance to try something weird where like maybe you have maybe the body of it has like a dial system to where you could like switch over like what element he is currently using at the time, and like there'd be cutaways to reveal like color underneath and like the emblem that appears in the the Planeteer rings. So you have like a rotating like inspiration of like what powers of the Planeteers he's using. So that is that's probably how you do the Geo Cruiser. That'd be fun. I'd buy that. I would absolutely buy that. And also, I do apologize for missing your question last month. Sometimes it doesn't matter if it's mentioned as a question or not. It really is just like, it's a 3-hour recording. I am trying my best to answer every single question I get, but I do get exhausted. I am human. I get exhausted. I start overlooking things. I do apologize if I miss somebody's question. I'm not doing it intentionally. It is literally just, it's extremely taxing to do these videos, which is another reason why I ask people, don't give me some huge like multi-page paragraph to read. Don't give me some long question to answer, because this is exhausting. And I'm trying not to make it too long. So I do apologize if I skip something. I don't mean to. How long do you think IDW will continue to operate, considering they lost the license to big IPs from Hasbro and Disney? I'm only asking because half of the future of the current Sonic comics is technically in their hands. It seems to have a terrible release schedule. So I do see where they have had multiple hiatuses, which is a little bit concerning because I think the IDW Sonic comics are really, really good. I genuinely don't know how IDW is doing financially. Once they lost the Transformer license, I really stopped paying attention to them. As far as I know, the Sonic comics are doing well. They are planning for issue 100, which means that they're planning to be around for at least a couple more years. And they do the spin-offs from the Sonic books. Those seem to do well. So it's hard for IDW at the moment. You know, they lost Transformers, but keep in mind, IDW doesn't just publish the Sonic comics. They do have their own list of comic books that they continue to produce. So I don't know how they're doing. And I don't care to learn. You know, just hopefully they do well enough that the Sonic comics continue, because I think they're doing really good stuff. Let's see. Greetings from Italy. My name is Frederico. You'll excuse me, I'm terrible at pronouncing a name, usually. And I've been sporadically following you since the Titanium Megatron video. Now, there have been a couple of things I would like to ask you, so I finally decided on the one to start with, and it's a weird one, so here's the question. Do you still have your haircut pinned to the door? Oh my god. You remember that? Wow. No, because it became unsanitary. No. It is not pinned to the door anymore. It got unsanitary, and there's other things that took priority to pin to the door, so space had to be made. But you'll notice that, like, even though I did do that, I still fell off from my video schedule. But that's mostly just because real life got really heavy, depression set in, mostly just because of my grandmother's health declining so quickly. So yeah, like, that's why my videos became sporadic again. It's not me being complacent. Like, obviously now, there is nothing complacent about this. I am literally throwing everything I can think of at the channel, and then I'm going off to do some completely new project over on Twitch at the same time. So I'm definitely not complacent at this point. But that said, I do know there's still more that has to be done and more that I can do. So I'm not slacking on that either. But no, that got thrown away a long time ago. Why is there pushback against the twins getting new toys while characters like Jar Jar Binks, another character of offensive origin, consistently get new toys with no pushback? So I feel like in the case of Jar Jar, it's more just the character is very annoying. And while you could say he plays off of certain stereotypes, that is a very open to interpretation accusation to make. I really think it's just Jar Jar's really freaking annoying. Not necessarily that he comes from a racist belief. I really think the racist accusations on Jar Jar are a little bit, back then, were a little bit reactionary. You know, and that mostly just comes down to a speech pattern, which could or could not be intentional. When it comes to the twins, it is absolutely intentional. There is no question whatsoever that Michael Bay and the writers of that movie were absolutely playing off of very offensive African-American stereotypes. There is no room for debate. There is no room for wiggle or argument on that. And you're like, all you can do is try to justify it, which if you do, shame on you. Yeah, the twins are just very, very much what they appear to be, whereas Jar Jar is like open to interpretation. I feel like that gives Jar Jar just a little bit of leeway. To be fair, I don't like Jar Jar either, you know? Yeah, like that's basically how it goes. I feel like it's just because the twins are not open for debate. They are just genuinely racist, and you can very much see that it is. See, me and my best friend like and collect Transformers. Difference is I open all my toys, but he keeps some more unique sealed. Like the reason Hearts of Steel, Void Rivals, Jetfire, all collaborations, etc. My question is, do you really think it's worth doing what he does? Because I don't think they'll be super valuable in the near future. So, love your work. Keeps me sane at the end of the day with 2 kids, 2 and 4 years. Congrats. Peace from Portugal. A lot of international questions this week. I got some from the UK, from Italy, from Portugal now. Oh, I love knowing you all come from all over the place. That's wonderful. It's come so far away. I still remember just being the shy kid that didn't want any attention back in high school. And now I have people from all over the world who know who I am. It's so weird. I love it. So I would say if that's the way he enjoys collecting Transformers, then no, there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. I mean, if he is collecting specifically for like collector value, I would say no, he's probably, probably shooting in the wrong direction. I don't think Hearts of Steel is going to have a whole lot of collector value later on. Some, absolutely, because it's a Pulse exclusive. But it's not going to be like, I can retire off of this money. The Void Rivals Jetfire is the same. It's a very mild repaint with a couple extra action figures. It really depends on if Void Rivals takes off and becomes a really popular franchise on its own. The collaborations are going to be hit and miss, because like we saw with like Gigawatt's getting his third run now. So like Gigawatt does not have that kind of collector value because they just keep making more. But things like Ninja Turtles that are evergreen and people like me were dumb enough to buy up 4 at a time, so like the stock just like evaporated, that might have a little bit more credence because you're like double targeting franchises here. And that kind of stuff is timeless. It's always going to be like OG turtle collectors. So some of it you can speculate on correctly, but like for me, like I absolutely prefer opening them and experiencing them as toys. But if that's how he enjoys collecting them, there's nothing wrong with that either. In that sense, he can borrow your best friend can borrow from yours. I shouldn't say that. It's like, because one of my best friends is in Australia and he does a lot of mint in box collecting. I don't, but like, I can't just send him toys to mess with. So I'm making an assumption there, but like, you can share experiences with him that he doesn't get himself. So that's like, there's something to benefit you in that dynamic as well. So let's not underplay that. See, between the two of us, I am the only one who thinks that Transformers 1 Sentinel Prime looks like the 2005 IDW comic book Nominus Prime. Just throwing that little tidbit out there. Unfortunately, that's not a question. Please do not label these things as questions if they are not questions. You are making an observation. So that's why I try to say, like, please designate your questions and comments separate from each other. Just the way I'm not stopping for something that I can't answer. Why does it seem like some alt modes have gotten worse in the last 20 years? For example, Cybertron Defense Scattershot was a cool missile tank. 2007 Brawl was a perfect realistic tank. And a few other really good ones follow, but Siege Megatron, Megatronus, and even 86 Megatron all have lackluster tank modes. And you are right. And the comment is right. It's different priorities. Brawl has to be a realistic tank. And you have to keep in mind, when they do unrealistic tanks, it's because of licensing. They can't afford to license every single vehicle mode in a toy line. And also, your Siege Megatron, your Megatronus, they're not based on real world tanks. They're Cybertronian. So like, it's perfectly fine if you do not like them aesthetically or all that. But like to say that they are worse than the previous ones just because they don't match your preference of design, that's an incorrect statement. That's an incorrect stance. You know, it's fine to dislike the aesthetic, but understand, it's a Cybertronian tank. It's going to look different from a normal Earth tank. You know, you clearly prefer the more realistic designs. They aren't realistic. You mentioned Siege Megatron. Siege Megatron is a Cybertronian tank because that whole storyline and that toy line takes place on Cybertron before Earth was a thing. So understand, some of that is your own expectations and preferences leaking in. They are not worse. They are just different. And that's kind of important to understand when you are making that distinction incorrectly. There's Tommaso Ciampa. What is your thoughts on the Showa era of Kamen Rider? I'm interested in watching Amazon Black and Black RX, but due to them being a lot older, I'm not quite sure I actually enjoy them. Possibly not be for me. So, let's see. For those particular series, Black is kind of like the holy grail of Showa series. A lot of people like Black above every Kamen Rider that came forth. The same reason why I champion Agito in the wake of all of these new modern Kamen Riders. And also, I'm thrilled that you did like Agito. I'm very happy to hear that. But it's like me. It's like I champion this as like the best story in Kamen Rider that I have watched. And the same way that some people will also say about Kamen Rider Black. Keep in mind, Kamen Rider Double's main actor for Shotaro, he grew up watching Black. He grew up watching episodes of Black. And because his dad recorded it and he watched it on tape. So Black is like if you're gonna try like an old school rider from the Showa era, go with Black. I heard Black RX is not as good, so you have your fair warning there. But for me personally, it's extremely campy and cheesy, and episodes really do just kind of boil down to this monster appears, it's doing this thing, Kamen Rider shows up, kicks it good, it blow up. You have to remember, like, they didn't really need complex stories back then to get kids to watch. They were very much just like, watch the hero blow up the mean monster. And a lot of Showa series kind of follow that formula. So, yeah, you do have to get to Kamen Rider Black before you get to, like, actual, like, tangible story. That said, if you want a little dip into what Showa era felt like, watch Zedo first. Go find Zedo and get a little taste of it that way. Do you wish we had more transformations with animal or at least animalistic robot modes, like the 2012 Decepticons or Alternator Ravage? I mean, if the toy is good and lends itself to that, yeah, like it provides a different aesthetic than we normally get. What breed of dog do you think Optimus Prime would get, would adopt? I feel like Optimus Prime would be a German Shepherd. Like he would like just like a loyal guard dog type. That's a fun question. That's a fun question that I'm not sure I have like an exact answer for, unfortunately. Mostly because I will admit, I say German Shepherd because my family, my entire childhood, my entire life, to this day, my parents own a German Shepherd, and that's it. That's it. My dog Phoenix is a German Shepherd. So like it's always just been Shepherds. So unfortunately, I don't have a lot of experience with other dog breeds. The other answer would be like maybe a Golden Retriever. Sorry if this asked already. After Hasbro released Transmetal Megatron, you think they would release Transmetal Megatron X from the Nintendo 64 game? Or is it so obscure that the amount of pain is so big they would not even bother? I do think that reaches a level of obscurity, but then again, we do have Studio Series Gamer Edition. I could absolutely see them doing like some Selects Gamer Edition that's just cast in silver plastic. Not chrome. Certainly not chrome all the way through. but it'd be fun to get, if only just figure out how they work the wings into that one. Does your Entertainment Earth promo no longer work? So if you use the link that's in my description, that one works, because that will link directly to the Transformer section with my little marker thing. But my promo code no longer works. The vanity code with TJOmega, that no longer works. So if you want to support me with Entertainment Earth, then you got to use the link in the description. The only reason the slider below me has not changed is because I am having such a hard time figuring out how to convey that my Entertainment Earth link below is what you need to click on, not use the code TJOmega. I'm having such a hard time trying to figure out how to convey that in just one line at the bottom of the video that I just haven't gotten around to updating yet. So that's the bad part. What if there's a Dragon Ball themed Sentai series? I feel like you might have seen one of the same pictures that I saw, maybe floating around TikTok, where someone put a bunch of Figuarts Dragon Ball heads on top of Mighty Morphin Figuart bodies. I mean, it'd be funny, but at the same time, you're dealing with a level of power in Dragon Ball characters. I'm like, why do you need to also transform into a spandex hero? You're already powerful enough to blow up a planet with a punch. Why do you need a morpher to get stronger? I feel like this is just redundancy at that point. What is your favorite version of Megatron as a triple changer? Marauder, Megatron, Super Megatron, Concepts Studio, Megatron, Cybertron, Titans Return. So you think that's all the triple changer Megatrons? I think that's all of them. I think that's just about all of them. So out of all of those, the Titans Return I do think is really good, but I think that comes from being a pre-tool for Blitzwing more than anything. Just for sheer appearance, I still think the Marauder Megatron is one of the smoothest, nicest looking triple changers I've ever seen, and the fact that it still does not exist hurts me on a deep level. The concept one I never mess with. I do not like the look of it, even though it's supposedly inspired by the Marauder. Super Megatron is cool, but it's sloppy because it's literally just stuff crammed on top of stuff. Also, it's technically not a triple changer. Super Megatron, Super Megatron technically only transforms into a tank. Or no, it's a jet. Ultra Megatron transforms into a tank. But yeah. But there is a toy that does all four of the forms, so I know which one you mean. And here we go. Last question of the Q&A. Do you wear, have you worn, will you wear, and when will you wear wigs? So, one, not a necessary thing. But also, I had a friend cosplay that required a wig, and she said it was the worst experience of her life and just torture the entire time she had to wear it. So probably never. Probably never. Now, there's a cosplay or two I could see doing with my girlfriend, and they would require short hair. And I'm not going to chop this for a cosplay. So I might consider a wig for that. But that's probably the limit. Otherwise, if you just mean when am I going to sit down with curly red locks here? Yeah, that you're not going to see. But that is going to take us to the end of another Q&A session. Thank you everyone for submitting a question. And thank you to everyone who sat through and listened to this entire thing. Because I know it's a very long experience, and I thank you for going through it. So, again, if you have a question for next month, then please leave it in the comment section below. Keep the rules in mind when you do so. And thank you, everyone, for watching. I will see you next time. Hello, everyone. I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday / early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.